everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. Happy spring equinox. And to make sure, like normal in these things, I'm going to make sure everything is working okay and you can hear me, the microphone. So I'm just going to be over here for just a moment and then we'll jump right in to see. Oh, good. So let's see, so you can just take a moment to get settled in. Okay, good. Just take a moment to get settled. Oh, I hear the background, so a little bit delay, so I'm turning that off. Okay, yay, Emily, Linda, awesome. Okay, so for those of you who might watch the replay or haven't worked with me, I work a lot through sound and using sound as a way to alter consciousness and to expand consciousness and to ultimately go deeper into ourselves, selves being the big S, not the little s. So we can work with sound as a way to expand our capacities. And then also tonight specifically, we're going to be working with sound on how to go deeper into those places of emotion and feeling and help to transform the feeling and the emotion. There's so many different ways to work with sound and how it expands our consciousness. And expanding our consciousness meaning that we go from one state of being into another and using sound as that vehicle. I've been studying sound. Well, really, I feel, as so many of us, I've always loved music. Every phase of my life, it's like the soundtrack, whether it was like Paula Abdul in 5th grade or, Pink Floyd in senior year for me. And so we can summon, right, our emotional memories and our emotional feelings in the body by listening to music and listening to sound. So sound is a profound way of shifting consciousness, and not just shifting consciousness, but actually shifting the cell. So we're working at a cellular level when we're working with sound. And there's so many different ways to use sound for healing, and sound healing is popping up all over, which is wonderful. And there's sound baths, and really they're seeing even in the corporate world how music, soft music, can help to change the brain waves to create a more productive, by being less stressed atmosphere. But how I work with sound is a little bit different. I like to tell people almost as a forewarning that I'm more of a sound channel. And then especially when we're using sound to help move our emotions, it's not what you necessarily picture if you go, for example, to the Salt Cave here in Asheville, where there's a lovely sound bath by my friend Billy Zansky that's awesome. And it's very relaxing, and you feel like you have like rain dripping all over you through the sound and all of that. And that is definitely wonderful, and that's not how this rolls. So I like to say that because sometimes when people show up for sound healings, or if there's a sound event, they can be a little bit startled when it's not like I'm going to have this relaxing moment at the spa. So I've been studying with Tom Kenyon since 2007 and taken his sound healing certification training about 4 times, every time he offered it. And the last time he offered it, I think it was in 2012. And I've sat as a student as his, and he doesn't like to call himself a teacher, which all of us as students think of him as a teacher, but he doesn't say that. And the way that I have been initiated into this sound path is through showing up for these sound initiations. And so it's more of an experiential, so I teach more experiential. I'm not going to go into, this chakra has this note, and, my partner actually laughs at me because when we first got together, she was like, what note is your bowl and sound? And I was like, I don't know. And I have no idea what notes go with what chakras, even though I've been doing sound healing for over a decade. And I have no idea still what note my bowl is, because what I've been taught in my experience is it actually doesn't matter, because you're going to match the vibration that you need to whatever center that needs that healing, and it's going to be specific to you and to your background. And what I've also learned is that, for example, if technically certain keys, certain notes create this healing atmosphere. And I was working with a woman at one of the sound healing trainings, and she had some traumatic experiences around classical music. And so when she actually goes to hear classical music, it's very traumatic for her. And so you never know. So if you are a healer and you work with people with sound, and you might put on this, the sound of whales and classical music, and think that it's going to be very soothing for the person, and you just never know actually the reaction that's going to take place. So we all have our different responses to sound, and it's such a deep personal. So what we're going to go into tonight is using your own voice and using the tool of your voice to move your consciousness, or to expand your consciousness, and to help move emotions and move tension in the body. So it's a really, your sound is, it's your soul signature, and only you have your unique sound. And so the most healing instrument you could ever have for yourself, for your deep healing, whether we're talking karmic healing, whether we're talking soul healing, is going to be your own voice, because it's your soul recognizing you. So I can't speak to this enough, that when we go inward and we allow the places within us that might be constricted or stuck or even fatigue, and we give that a voice from our own consciousness and from our own sound, that is going to be so much more powerful than even putting on a relaxing music or spiritual something or other. So how we're going to go into tonight, and I tend to go over, so I want to make sure with time, is we're going to do some exercises where we go inward. We identify where's their tension. Where's their tension in the physical body, or where's their tension in the emotional or mental bodies? Then using sound as that activator of consciousness, as that activator to help then go into the sensation, into the feeling, to then go through it. So sound will never pop us out. I mean, you might have an experience of, if you're listening to a sound meditation and go into spaceships and all of that. But when we're using it as a way to go into a feeling, we get deeper embodied, and then it's from that place of healing. So, it's pretty profound. Just pausing to see what else wants to be spoken before we go into it. Let's see. So I'm just tuning in to see what wants to happen next. In this story wants to be shared. I was just, as most of you know who are on here, because I think y'all are all my people, love you. When I was with my dad, hi Debbie, in his last days, and I know this, I know it intellectually. I've been in the room with people when people pass, and we all know that maybe not all know, but so sound is the hearing is the last sense to go. So when someone looks like they are catatonic, that's why they say don't argue in rooms with people who are even in a coma. And I found that with my dad when he was in his last stages, where there was no response. But when I would go and turn the music, you could feel him light up, so to speak, his energy body light up. And then he was not responsive all day Saturday at all to any of us. And then when I leaned over and I said, Dad, I brought my guitar. Would you like to hear some music? He opened his eyes for just a moment and got so excited, and then went back. And it was that moment and that excitement of music. And so I went and I played him music, and he was more responsive that day. And it was the last time he was responsive. And I played him his favorite songs of Peter, Paul, and Mary and Bob Dylan. And he just sat there, and he wasn't moving at all. I'm not going to do it because I have a microphone, but he was just barely moving his finger. And that, because he could hear, right? So the power of sound and the power of music and the power of the voice and our hearing, and hearing, whether it's hearing ourselves, hearing someone else, or hearing our guides and hearing the inner world. It's so profound. So that little story wants to be shared. And now let's close your eyes if you can and get comfy. And as always, attune to the breath. Feeling the inhalations and the exhalations. And being an invitation to get yourself into present time. So for those of you who know it, which I think it's all of you on right now, you can create a new grounding cord or check in with the one that you have, or you can say hello to Pachamama energetically, sending out some gratitudes, grounding and rooting. And then bringing your awareness to your heart, right in the center of your chest. It's inviting the breath to soothe the heart. It might be the first time that we have paid any attention to the heart today, or it might have been some hours. So just checking back in. How's your heart feeling? How are you feeling in this moment? And just notice what you notice. And we're going to begin to open up the voice by inhaling and simply humming on the exhale. So inhaling. And again, feeling the deep resonance in the chest and the throat. Good. A few more times, opening up the throat. Now we're going to start sighing. So on your exhales, we're just going to keep with this rhythm, making sound on the exhales. First starting with a sigh, and then if a tone wants to come out, allow that to come out. Once you start opening up your throat, you might want to Move your neck around. So things start to loosen up. So just by humming and sighing, you'll start to open up the throat chakra, open up the throat center, so it can be that gateway to move emotion, move and expand whatever it is we're feeling. So inhale. Doesn't have to be pretty, so I'm just using an example of you might need to shake it out after a long day, just opening up. You can make wah big noises, opening up the jaw, wah wah. You can look all silly, just opening up. And then coming back to center, and then notice what you notice. If any energy is opened up. If it's revealed an even deeper level of tension. Or if it feels more freeing. Then I want you to pinpoint an area of tension. And it can be a point on the body. For example, I was running today and I haven't run in a long time. And I was like, okay, I'm running today. And I can feel a point in my shoulder blades where some ribs are a little bit out. And there's a tension there. So I'm going to place my awareness, for example, I could place it there. Or if my mind is looping and I'm having a hard time focusing, or if there's a conversation or an email that happened that I'm just, in this spin, I could place my awareness on that. If I'm feeling an ache in my chest from some grief that might be coming up, or even a gray sense. So I get a lot of just almost when working with people, blank. When you tune in, because right when you're about to tune into something emotionally that's that you want to be moved, it can get a little trickster So if there's a feeling of blank, if you're I don't even know, then you can place your awareness on I don't even know, right? So we just track it and we track it and we track it, and then we use our voice and we use our sound to transform from cellular to cellular, soul being the soul part of consciousness, and we use sound to move that tension. So bringing awareness to any place of tension. Letting your full presence just dive in. So if there is a feeling of fatigue, a feeling of doubt, just calling up what is the full force of doubt or sorrow if you're in that space. Feeling that all. Then we're going to use our voice to transform by going into that tension. So if you picked a place in your body, you're going to put that pinpoint and make a sound. If that muscle tension in your back could be a sound, what would it be? If doubt had a voice, what would it be? And you don't have to, and it's important actually, you don't have to know or anything like that. We're just going to simply open our mouth and let sound come out. So we're just going to, it might be a little sticky at first, but we're going to keep working with it. So you can have this in you, so you can use this as a tool later. So pinpointing that place of tension. Inhaling, then just opening your mouth and making a sound. Just keep going with it, inhaling and exhaling and making a sound. And pause and notice. Did the energy move? Did it expand? Did it dissipate? So getting clear on just notice what you notice, and then we're going to go in again. Feeling into that place of tension. Just letting the sound come out, however soft, however loud. Then pause and notice. So what happens when we use our voice to move that energy, you might feel like if there is something over here, it might jump over here. If you started out with sorrow, as you activate and really meet that energy, it might end up being rage, and you might end up screaming, or you might start with anger or tension, or just feeling like, I was just agitated today, and you might end up in the place in your belly and feeling sorrow, and you didn't realize that conversation you had with your coworker really affected you and made you sad. So I'm just giving examples of, it's a way to track what's underneath. Because usually, whether it's tension, whether it's emotion, there's usually something underneath that first surface layer. And so using sound by meaning your voice, because there's lots of other ways we can use sound, and as we go through the series, I'll be talking about those. But right now, it's using your voice. Your voice is the best medicine for what's going on inside here. And so using your voice to help expand energy, and then also move energy, and then create some healing. So I just want to pause and see if anyone has any questions about that before going on. So I'm just going to look over here in the chat box. Did anyone feel a shift when they're using their voice? Just seeing if you want to share. Okay. Okay, so give me like a thumbs up or a heart or something if there was some sort of movement. Okay, so yes, feels strange. Yes, okay. So, partly, what can feel strange in the beginning, we're not used to using our voice as a tool, as a healing tool. So I don't know if that's what you feel strange. If not, just let me know. We're not used to activating, especially, this is for a lot of people, but it can happen more so also for women, like activating our voices and not worrying about sounding good, right? It's like we get to free ourselves from the notion that this medicine that's our voice has to sound a particular way, or be on whatever that show is that when people sing. But so it can feel awkward at first, but the more you practice, the more you'll start to rely on your voice as a huge tool and medicine piece for moving energy. And so again, to go over the technique, is what you want to do is you oh yes, okay, so what you can do is you go into the sensation, the feeling, the emotion, anything with the mind. So we go towards that thing that's contraction. We go towards it. We don't separate. We go towards it. Then once we have we're calling it forth. We're calling it forth. We go into it and we use our voice to expand. Because what's tension, what's contraction, is contracted, the stuck energy. So we use the voice to go in, whether it's toning, humming, and then it starts to expand. Then our consciousness shifts. When our consciousness shifts, we get more spacious, and then we can really look at things from a more clear perspective. So if if there's emotional or mental loop we're in, we can work with sound through the body, sound in relation to our emotions, and that creates more spaciousness. Once we have more spaciousness, then the healing can come in, whether that's insight, whether that's simply relaxing, whether it's letting go from some of the anxiety, or we have, these different aha moments. So we go towards that which makes us uncomfortable, which can be very awkward. We're taught so much to, preference and aversion. Our mind that's what we go. We go towards something that we want, or we back away from something we don't want. So we're training ourselves when we feel a sensation or a contraction, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or physically, we go into it, we presence ourselves, then we use our voice to create more spaciousness. And then that creates more sense of expanded consciousness, and then we can have greater insight. So that's a way to work with sound. Someone asked more about my background here before we go, and so just wanting to make sure that everyone has that clear of the technique. So you go towards it, you sound, create space, and then it allows for your consciousness to shift. And partly, again, why I approach sound in this way, my teachers, it's not a very technical, I have no idea, it's all very intuitive. I don't know I used to know the different brain waves and the different things that would help to expand when you're in certain brain waves, but it's been a long time and I haven't used it. So, but using the empowering yourself that you are your own medicine woman, your medicine man, your medicine person, and that your greatest tool is your voice. It's the instrument you have with you all the time. So if you go into it and let yourself expand, and again, that is the edge for so many people, is to let yourself sound awkward and sound weird. For those who have studied with me and been to my sound events, I make all sorts of weird fucking sounds. It's what's going on? What being or what alien just came into the room? And so it's not about sounding pretty, it's about sounding authentic. And through that authentic moment, that's when change happens. So I hope that, I'd love to hear if you work with the sound and work with your voice, of how that's going to shift in the next coming weeks before the next Facebook Live, when we'll go into using sound as a sound channel to really work with different higher vibrations and bring it through as a sound channel more. So I hope that was helpful. I'm doing my best to be on time because I'm usually run over. And for more about my background in sound, I studied with Tom Kenyon. Really, he's been my main influence, and you can find it on my website in the About section. And I've done other trainings that were more technical, and they were a long time ago, and I don't ever use those practices just because I felt as being in the healing arts for so long, it didn't ring true, where someone would come in and if it's their third chakra or something was off with their right use of power for themselves and in certain trainings. And I'm not saying that they're wrong, it just didn't work for me, where it's third chakra equals whatever note, I forgot about it now. It's just everyone is their own living organic universe, and I don't in my experience, using that pattern that works for everyone just doesn't really apply. So I really love this part, this technique of intuitive and letting what's within and what's in moment to moment when I'm working with clients and I'm working with someone's patterns within their system. It's a moment to moment to moment thing. So if I'm working and I see that they're leaking power in their third center, I'm going to use a sound that's going to be completely different than if I work with another person and they're having leakage of power in a different place. And it's because it's what my universe and their universe meet each other, and that's where the magic happens. So it's going to be different every time. So I'm not too techie. Oh, yay. Love my assistants reminding me, if you want a sound transmission, it's Mary Magdalene came through and was working with your heart and your crown and integrating more soul pieces. You can get the sound transmission on in the comments below. I think that's right. Yep, it's in the comments below. So love you all. Thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful. And, there's been a lot of crunchiness going on, and I've been getting messages from people all over of like what is happening in the energetics of the cosmos. So definitely this can be a tool in your pocket to help move through this time that's feeling a little crunchy. But I feel like every time it's like something else. If it's not like Mercury retrograde and Pisces moon, there's going to be something else. So we're living in a time of prophecy. I know I say that a lot in different avenues. Like, we're living in a time of prophecy. This is a time of awakening, whether it's looking from the lens that we're in the age of Aquarius or we are moving into out of the Kali Yuga. So we just need all the tools and presence that we can, and we're all in this together. So, all right, love you all, and I will see you. There won't be a Facebook Live next week, but there will be one the week after. Okay, be well.